we can consider. But I think what is happening here is, as officials, people have to make responsible decisions. And that's all I'm suggesting, is that we have a responsibility to oversee this money in a fiduciary manner. And if they want to play politics, that's fine, but we don't have to be a part of that.
With all due respect, do you think they should make a decision before they know the cost?
No, they can make a decision of the project. They had a referendum that seems as if the people want it. They have to make a decision, yes, we're going to commit to it, and we will work to make sure it's brought in the most cost-effective manner. That's two separate things.
But if it comes in at $100 million a mile, it's unaffordable.
But that's a collaborative decision we
Yeah.
make together under the agreement. And if they're not willing, I mean, I don't mean to say, nobody's asking them to make a decision before they have the cost. And I think, quite frankly, that's a little bit of a red herring. The issue is that they're taking the decision out of your hands. Nobody's going to say, I've been quoted as saying if it came in at over $350 million, I'd recommend we not do it. And I think the city of Virginia Beach was. I think we've missed the whole point of collaborative here in working together. So, no, nobody would ask them anything. And would say if it's too high, don't spend the money. But to get to that point, the way our grant program works, they would need to be preparing the procurement and procuring the cars and getting there. So, and let me point out here, if it didn't work, don't you think the state would be? Maybe you would have the chance to say, well, we want to put more money up. Or we're not going to say you wasted it. We try to find a place for the cars. This has been, that's where I read the words collaborative. And I think that's what I'm trying to get to, is that we're walking down this, but, either we haven't been able to reach that yet. But I want to make it clear, nobody would make a decision without having the cost.
Mr. Chairman, can I add to that? When we put a project on the 6-year plan and it starts preliminary engineering and all the other stuff, we have an estimate of the cost, but we don't know what it's going to be. Yeah. I mean, this project's no different from any other project. And at any time, when the preliminary engineering comes back and says, well, this is going to cost twice what we thought it was going to cost, we can reevaluate that.
The only estimate we have now is one all agrees is too high. We have an estimate.
Well, I don't know if I agree, but anyway.
There is a cost estimate, as Mr. Freeland pointed out. It is about where any project that has just recently completed the environmental process would be, with about a 5 to 10% level of design. The project is now going through preliminary engineering, and then in the fall, when that's completed, they would have a refined cost estimate.
Exactly.
As Mr. Freeland mentioned, it's not unlike other highway projects that go through a similar process, and the projects get reevaluated. So I don't want to imply that there is no cost estimate out there which was used for us to make a decision about what the state should put into it. It's just that it's being refined and resolved, and we all hope that it goes down with better information based on what they're able to do over the next several months.
But let me ask this, I want to make sure I understand this. Maybe I'm missing something, John. A referendum comes back and says no, and the costs come under. I mean, do we know how they're going to act on that? My point is, all I'm saying is the referendum is I think we're trying to say is more of a political will. You're waiting to see. You're not saying it's dependent on cost. You're just saying we're not even sure. In fact, that's what some of them have said. One of them says, I don't want to spend one penny on light rail. I think that's some of what they're saying. So I think that's what's got the consternation. It's not I want to make it clear. If the cost comes in, nobody has committed to that. I mean, if they come in under in the referendum, there's not political will. I mean, all I'm suggesting is, and I think I go back to what Mr. Dyke is saying, is we just need that we're working towards this thing, and
we can all agree to disagree.
Right.
I think when you impose a tax on the citizens to finance and operate the system, that's a pretty significant commitment and political will from my view. And then when you're talking about, and I don't know what kind of safety you could put in the procurement of cars, committing $5 million when yet you don't know, and maybe there's a process where you can have a cancellation fee or whatever. But to commit, you have to inform the public we're going to commit $5 million, and I'm sure there's a way to do that, and it should be done.
Ms. Krasinski?
Yeah, I just want to see if I can crystallize this into what it means to the CTB. And that is, in the next, I'm going to say 60 days, maybe 90, we have to commit to a 6-year plan.
That's right.
And our question, I guess the question I have for you, John, to cut to the quick, is it not unreasonable to ask the city council to commit to signing that MOU?
I don't think that's unreasonable at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Because to me, if they did that, that
haven't
is
seen
a
the
show
terms yet, so.
of coming together. And if they weren't willing to do that, I'd have to think long and hard about that $1.55 sitting on ice.
I can live with that.
Because Jim Scott and I can find a place for it in Northern Virginia. I know Mr. Fralin can find, everybody could find a place.
I see
for
the
that
sharks
money.
in the tank.
Mr. Casper?
Is the cost collaboration component of this discussion incorporated in the MOU? Is that clear to everyone involved? So that's.
Yeah, that would require them to spend money before any potential referendum.
But there's clarity on that issue between the parties.
And the HP2 process is going on a 2-year cycle after.
Yeah, this year, but they would make this one this year if
Right.
they chose to go that route.
Right.
They would make this one.
But they'd
I
have to
would
wait 2
suggest.
years to go.
And being a federal process, then you got to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yeah, Mr. Secretary,
Mr. Brown.
I just wanted to speak to this because we were actually confronted with the same issue in the city of Richmond just last Tuesday night, or last Monday night, actually, where for BRT, the city council was wavering on whether or not they were willing to commit to accept Tiger Grant funds for that project. Again, similar consternation. Some folks thought it wasn't hot enough. Some folks thought it was too cold. Others thought it was just right. And ultimately, I think the secretary and staff came in and said, look, the time is coming where you're going to have to either commit to this project or not. If you not, then the dollars go back. And a number of folks spoke to the issue. There was a very heated debate. The public had a chance to comment. And at the end of the day, the city council made a very bold decision to commit to take those dollars. And again, it wasn't a situation where, I think the secretary and the staff wanted to put their thumb on the scale. It was simply, this is a reality. This is a competitive environment. You cannot sit on a pot of money indefinitely until you have 100% consensus. You're going to have to lead in that regard. And again, I'm a big proponent of multimodal transportation, public transit, light rail where it's possible. I'd love to get in Richmond. So, you're right, the sharks are in the tank. I'd love that $155 million to come support a project in Richmond, but I'm willing to support it for Virginia Beach. But the council of Virginia Beach is going to have to make a decision to get into this cycle, or they can come back in the next cycle and I'll support it then.
So why don't I suggest this, because I think we'll get Ms. Mitchell to put together a resolution and an MOU, the MOU, our standard MOU, in terms of what we would normally have them execute when they need to stay on the schedule that they agreed to. The only question I would have, and maybe we can, is to whether or not there needs to be any mention of a referendum in that. And I will let y'all discuss, but we'll put together something to discuss it tomorrow, and have you have a chance to think about it, or later. We'll try to get something later today to you so that you can talk. I want you to be able to talk with John and others and think about this. Because I think there's a lot of things involved here. It's not only this project, it's a precedent in terms of House Bill 2, where we've been. The issue we've had with the 6-year plan in the past, it's been nothing but a reservation of monies without a commitment and a certainty, and so I think that's something to consider. But I want to point out, again, that the McAuliffe administration is firmly behind this project and thinks it needs to get done. But I've talked with the governor, and we've provided the monies. I think we believe it's a collaborative issue that we need to go forward with in that regard. And so I don't see this as, if they're not ready now, that means end. I know they'd like to portray it. I know Mr. Malman has portrayed it that way. That's what I've heard it. I mean, just no more than you can say, but the city council may or may not vote. I don't see this anywhere killing the total project in the future. It certainly puts it on a different glide path, no doubt about that, because the state has stepped up here, at least double its commitment and more in terms of that to move the project forward. And I think I need to point out, that was at their request. I mean, I know you go back and look at the newspaper when we first made it. I mean, you had all the people against the that we're ramming it down their throats. And now that we're doing this, it's going the other way, and neither way, we're trying to respond to what they have asked us to do. And if we haven't, then I would be willing to sit down and say, what haven't we done that you've asked us to do? So I want to make it clear.
I would like to say the state has been extraordinarily accommodating to this project. There's been a lot of collaboration. A lot of heavy lifting has been done. It's unfortunate we've got to this place, but I can say the state has just been champions of this from the beginning.
And I would also ask, I think we want to give the city of Virginia Beach to try to, how do we work this? But I would also suggest that I think the citizens ought to weigh in with their elected officials, because that's what Carlos,
To a referendum or what?
If they need one, John, if they need one, I've said, absolutely. I've never said that. And no, I firmly believe that they should have. Only thing I'm suggesting is this board should then understand what the impact of that is and the certainty of it. Absolutely. I'll say it, if they need a referendum, they should do it. That doesn't necessarily mean that we should hold the monies. That's all I've ever said. It's never been about not support of the project. And I know people would like to put it that way, but they're just inaccurate.
Mr. Chairman, could I add something to that?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree with you. You read the original agreement was that we would expedite the project.
Yes.
Holding referendums is not expediting the project. That's our deal, right? Am I right? That was our deal. We're going to help you expedite the project.
That is clearly the way we went.
And so we've
deal.
moved it forward. In some ways, we may have satisfied our commitment to expedite the project. And, and that was one of the reasons I remember, if I remember right, that we took the project off having to be defunded under the 6-year plan and then reapplying under House Bill 2. Was because we had agreed to expedite the project.
That's correct.
Well, let me understand expedite the project. We're in design phase right now, and that design phase won't be completed until this fall. And then we have to go and get procurement and pricing. What can we do to expedite what I just described?
Sign the MOU.
Well, I agree with the MOU, but I mean in terms of process.
John, don't forget about the maglev, all the side roads we've been down. I don't mean to be that, but
I can talk about maglev. We had a snake oil salesman.
Well,
and
all I'm
got
suggesting.
the attention of a couple of council members. I can build this for half the cost and do all, and that was just.
Well, let me throw something. When you talk, we've been through this many times with other projects about some of the delaying techniques that we've sent the opposition.
Yeah, I think, a referendum is a classic delay to, kill a project. But again, the expedition of the project schedule really referred to allowing the city not to have to go through the federal funding process. That has saved them 4 to 6 years easily.
And many, many monies.
Yeah.
Because we've moved it up. And quite frankly, the longer Rishi mentioned, the longer you delay, the more the project costs.
I agree.
So if you delay, you might get back to your cost. Well, the cost came in. Well, sure. So typically when we say somebody wants to expedite, they want to move forward, and that's all. It's nothing more than, we thought we were doing everything they asked us to do.
But when we elected to get out of the NEPA process, that was an effort to expedite.